Are you lost in the chaos of today's society? If all you need is a daily dose of quick updates on social matters around you, then look no further and tune into The Far Side, an 8-minute social inquiry podcast by English Club of Foreign Trade University. Strap in and get yourselves ready to look at the world from a whole new perspective. And it all starts right now.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of The Far Side. And we're back with a very exciting one for you guys. And joining me is none other than Maya.
Hello, Jack. I'm so glad to be here again with you guys in this episode. So, last time we dived into the outrage culture, and speaking of rage, video games and the latest console, the PS5, are exactly that.
It has just come out and is pulling out the entire world. It's even sold out in some countries. I was so excited when I first experienced it that I'm thinking of ordering a set for myself.
Yeah, I also wanted to own one so bad, but one thing that worries me is the negative stereotypes about video games. People think that buying a PS5 is to swing money through the window and bring no value to people.
I kind of agree with you, but people are very averse to typical games, as they tend to think that some people who, because of playing violent games, become more aggressive and potentially have a tendency to become more violent.
I understand what you mean. A lot of people are getting the idea that games makes prone to violence in real life, but actually it is not. Such accusations often fall flat into the face of subsequent forensic analysis. Indeed, current scientific evidence suggests that the link between games and aggression is actually very weak.
For example, in a recent study published in Molecular Psychiatry, participants were asked to play a violent game, Grand Theft Auto 5, one of my favorites, a non-violent game, The Sims 3, not one of my favorites, or no game at all, every day for a period of 2 months, using an array of questionnaires and behavioral measures to test aggression, sexist attitudes, and mental health issues. The authors found that playing the violent video game had no significant negative effects on any of these measures, and certainly aren't the root cause of mass acts of societal violence.
In fact, there are many other elements in life that can affect a player's behavior, such as individual and family circumstances, living conditions, and so on. Some people even had pre existing mental health, but they won't detect it and treat it in time, which led to potentially high risk of violence. And the game was just a trigger. And furthermore,
Yeah,
game makers are chasing profits that release simulated violence game which contain behaviors, items, encouraging violence and so on.
but as I remember, in the summer of 2018, the World Health Organization formally included gaming disorder in its diagnostic manual, the International Classification of Diseases, for the first time, and it was a decision that ignited a furious debate in the academic community. So, where do you stand on the statement that playing games can create addiction?
Yeah, part of the problem lies in the checklist used to determine whether a disorder exists. Historically, the criteria for gaming addiction were derived from those used for other sorts of addiction. Why that might be a reasonable place to start, it might not tell us the whole story about what the unique aspects of gaming addiction look like.
I understand what you said earlier, yet comparatively, gamers can often give the impression that they're glued to the screen, absorbed in what feels like the digital equivalent of junk food. Many people still make the assumption that gaming leads to social isolation and it prevents you from getting into the outside world.
It is understandable that something about that situation seems unhealthy or unnatural. But this view usually comes from a misunderstanding of what video games really are. In the advent of high speed, ubiquitous internet access means increasingly that those interactions are moving online. Rather than isolating people, online gaming has the potential to bring us together in myriad new ways, to form close knit communities based around common interests and hobbies. Just take Mastine for example.
Oh, that's a story about the boy you told me earlier, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
boy who was born with a devastating disease that causes progressive muscle deterioration. As he grew up, he appeared to become isolated and withdrawn. And after he died in 2014, at the age of 25, a different picture emerged, one in which Max lived a full and happy life in the online game world. Far from being alone, Max was surrounded by friends in this world, and they clubbed together to travel to Norway for his funeral.
Yes, the value in playing video games was not just in their ability to help us to escape, but how they connect us with each other.
Despite this positive example, there are still tons of people out there who feel that playing games is a meaningless waste of time. They just assume that with the time you spend on playing games, you can use that for a proper purpose. I feel like they don't put themselves in somebody else's shoes, and they have this misconception.
Yeah, this thought comes from a misunderstanding about the creative power that games possess. They provide us with an opportunity to experience our world and other fantastical places in a way no other form of media comes close to. And also, playing games can provide you with some job opportunities. And many people take their time to study games, to understand game code clearly, and they really become a game creators. And furthermore, there are plenty of gamers who stream on YouTube, Twitch, and they earn money from these platforms.
And playing games isn't just purely entertainment. Video games, obviously, were a product of scientific development. The best examples of this achieve two things. First, they act as fertile ground for collecting scientific data. And second, while at the same time being an entertaining experience.
I totally get it. And one possible case of this point of view is the game Sea Hero Quest, which acts as an experiment. That data is being used by scientists to understand how spatial navigation abilities vary across the globe and across the lifespan. This sort of knowledge is crucial in developing a deeper understanding of how such abilities start to decline and go wrong in the case of disorders like Alzheimer's disease. I think this game creating more and more positive messages, influencing people in an amazing way.
And in the final analysis, I knew why video games are one of the most misunderstood forms of entertainment. In one sense, it's easy to see why. You haven't had much interaction with them. Watching someone play can be a pretty unsettling experience. If we take a little time to uncover the true nature of video games, you may find a very different story, playing out like the information you mentioned previously.
Yeah, video games are not totally responsible for real world violence. Life is far too complicated for that to be true. And video games should be free to explore and portray the same conflicts, weapons, themes, and ideas that movies and TVs. But the industry has to be better at responding to the claims of political fearmongers, especially in the wake of horrific episodes of violence. Game makers need to analyze how they are portraying violence and what they are telling young gamers about military action. The blame here is that game developers have been too engrossed in chasing profits, but building games in a way that excites gamer without carefully considering the potential dangers that it can cause.
I think in order to change people's stereotypes about games, those companies have to build their content in a healthier way. Let's install violent behavior for characters, or stop toxic games. Ultimately, however, it will be down to consumers to decide the games that are good for them. Playing games today is like being in a rudderless boat. Gaming presents us with an opportunity to take greater control over the shaping of our own minds and brains. So each person should be a wise customer to choose the games that benefit the most.
Wise words indeed, Jack. And that is the end of today's episode. We hope you guys enjoy our episode and have a new perspective about video games. Thanks for listening to our podcast. I'm Mia.
And I'm Jack. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode of The Far Side.
And that is it for this episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy what we do here, visit our Facebook fan pages, English Club of Foreign Trade University, and Mastermind, English Social Inquiry Contest, for regular updates, and we would love to hear your take on the matters we just discussed. A quick reminder, new episodes come out every Monday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on Google, Apple Podcast, and even Spotify, so make sure not to miss it. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.